Hello and welcome to Extra Shot, the show that sprinkles chocolate dust on the Telco cloud cappuccino. My name is Ray Maistre. I'm the editorial director at TelecomTV, and I'm here in our very own virtual coffee shop to host the programme that looks back at some of the key themes from our recent Telcos and Public Cloud Summit. And I'm joined by the host with the most from that and all of our summits, TelecomTV's Director of Content, Guy Daniels. Guy, it's been a while since we supped a strong one in our extended reality hot beverage bar. What are you currently grinding, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't mind at all, Ray. I'm just finishing a particularly pleasant dark roast Italian blend, which packs quite a bit of punch, I can tell you, and about to load up with my favourite monsoon Malabar beans.
Oh, those sound like magic beans. But enough of the barista banter, Guy, because we're here to talk about the recent Telcos and Public Cloud Summit, which had a really nice mix of interviews. We had one-to-one chats with execs from AT&T and Vodafone. We had roundtable discussions and a couple of really great live after shows. And we explored a broad range of angles related to the relationships between telcos and the hyperscalers. And actually, since the summit aired, there have been a number of notable announcements made by the likes of BT Digital, Swisscom and Telia related to this topic. So how do you think things have progressed in the past year? Do you see greater clarity and certainty in the way that service providers are relating to the public cloud and how it can help them?
Well, Ray, I think we have progressed, but not far enough. There's still a lot of uncertainty and lack of clarity about how to best use public cloud. And for me, there were three top takeaways from the summit. First is not to treat a telco as a single entity with a single cloud requirement. Telcos have many different units performing many different roles, and each has its own set of cloud requirements. It's not one size fits all. Second, concerns about costs and charges. Maybe not hidden costs, but let's be generous and say opaque costs. Plus the fact that whilst it may be free to import your data, it costs money to take your data out of the cloud. And thirdly, and perhaps this is the most important one, ongoing concerns about trust and fear of telcos losing control of technology or markets. And this was identified as the leading challenge in our viewer poll.
Yeah, that was a really interesting result. So I'd recommend that viewers check out the summit sessions to get some insights on what companies such as AT&T, Colt, Orange, Verizon, Vodafone and more are thinking about all of this. But I'd like to focus on a couple of specific topics now. As telcos work increasingly closely with their public cloud partners, that requires full buy-in from within the four walls of the network operator. Everyone needs to be on board. So we asked a specific question of a couple of our guests. Who are the most important leaders or teams within a telco that need to embrace the potential of public cloud for their day-to-day operations? So that was the question we asked. Let's hear first from Paul Brittain, Principal Project Manager, Azure for Operators at Microsoft.
It is the operations team. They need to be embracing the speed of change that they can get out of analytics, AI, and orchestrated automation. It's a big mindset shift for most NOC teams in telcos. They have to move away from managing individual boxes, concentrate much more on an end-to-end service and how it is behaving. That's how hyperscalers manage their networks. They don't manage the network explicitly. We're managing end-to-end service. That's the change that operators need to make.
Okay, interesting. And that mindset point has cropped up many a time. And then we asked the same question of Danielle Royston, founder and CEO at Telco DR. What did she have to say?
There are three groups that are key to embracing the cloud inside of the telco. First, the executive leadership team has to be on board. It is a huge culture change for any telco to change their day-to-day operations to use the public cloud. Obviously, this change will impact the IT and network teams the most. These teams are on the hook to deliver the technology, and it has to work. But I'll add one group you didn't think of and we never talk about: human resources. You need a very strong strategic HR leader that will help the team communicate the vision of why you're moving to the public cloud. Create the desire for everyone inside the organization to move to the cloud. You'll then actually need to change the day-to-day work being done by everyone inside the organization. And then work hard to make sure the changes stick, because everyone will have inertia to go back to the old way of doing things.
So Danielle, really taking a much broader sweep there and bringing in HR. Guy, what do you make of this? Do you agree that that's a team, a group within the telcos that really need to be on board?
Well, I must admit, Ray, I never thought about HR. Probably that's down to not ever having a great experience with HR when I used to work for large companies. But that was a long, long time ago, and I'm sure they are all lovely people now. But seriously, it's a very good point. Any sweeping cultural change needs to be supported by the executive leadership. We know that. But it does need to encompass the entire organisation, and it's an ongoing process. As Danielle said, you need to avoid the trap of inertia and then falling back into your old ways. And as Paul said earlier, it's the operations teams that are those that are most impacted, and they do need to be supported.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, that the HR component is actually really important in all this. And we're seeing that in some of the training programs now happening at some of the telcos. Now, a topic that cropped up a few times during the summit was that of vendor lock-in. Now, that's something more often associated with proprietary network technology. But in this instance, it's about how tough it might be to stop working with a particular public cloud platform once you've started. The theory is that it should be easy, but nothing is easy, not even Wordle. And during one of our live Q&A shows, we had a question asking the panelists what kind of experience they had, if any, of migrating data from one cloud to another. And we got a really interesting response from Fatih Nar, Chief Architect Telco Partner Solutions at Red Hat, who has stints at Verizon and Google on his CV.
Do not migrate. Stay where you are. And however, grow in other places, in other clouds. And by means of, if you want to enlarge your footprint, your coverage, your traffic capacity, and reliability, redundancy, just grow in the cloud. But if you try, okay, I'm going to migrate from on-premise or one cloud to another cloud, you are taking a lot of bullets into your chest by means of service degradation, auto service, and all that pain. Instead, you can stay where you are, still do the best operations you can, but grow in the cloud for the additional traffic. And over time, gradually, if your on-premise or the cloud traffic that you want to migrate from will, decrease, and you can eventually end up where you want to be.
Well, he isn't sitting on any fences there. Do not migrate. Pretty strong message. Guy, is that a little bit concerning that the idea of migrating data from one cloud to another is seen as so risky?
We do love guests who get off the fence and tell us what they really think. Is data migration concerning? Well, yes, I believe it is. And as mentioned earlier, this was one of my key takeaways from the summit, and it's cropped up several times. On the one hand, it can be seen as a positive. Keep your data where it is and move your analytics and processes, etc., to the cloud, or better still, adopt new cloud native ones. Don't move it to and fro, cloud to on-prem. But on the other hand, what if you want to switch partners and move to another cloud for whatever operational or strategic reason? Then it appears that there could be a significant financial risk. And the last thing any of us want is for the public cloud to be seen as just another vendor silo.
Yeah, absolutely. So great real world insight there. And we can expect more of the same during the upcoming DSP Leaders World Forum in Windsor at the end of May, when one of the event's key sessions, Clouds on the Horizon, will dig deeper into some of these topics, particularly around the economics.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that session. Economics is a major factor here, and we want to see what we can discover. We want to know if the public cloud economics actually work for telcos, given the financial pressures that service providers are already under. But we'll also be looking at how public cloud impacts on-prem telco cloud investments, how we can forge better partnerships, And of course, creating the necessary internal cloud native cultures. And we'll have a mix of telcos, hyperscalers and cloud providers in attendance. So we should get to hear all viewpoints.
Yeah, great. Really looking forward to that event in Windsor. It'll be so good to be back face to face and hear what people have to say again. So thanks, Guy. It just leaves me to say thanks very much for joining me today on the programme, and thanks to you, the audience, for watching. Now, let's fire up those espresso machines.